Well, it's so wonderful to be with you today. The title of today's talk is The Universe is Calling. And I'm so glad that Erin called me and said, "Hey, will you do this Sunday for me while I'm on my sabbatical?" I said, "Absolutely yes." And I would like for you to do the same. When the universe calls you, just say yes. Just say yes. You never know what bright, wonderful, glorious surprises are that you're in store for when you say yes to the universe that's calling you to be. It was about 20 years ago. It'll be 20 years ago, January 1st, 2026, 20 years ago from that date, I gave a talk at Unity of Overland Park. And it was about two young men who were friends. They had met at International Y.O.U. True story. One from a Palestinian descent, one Israeli descent, and they made a pact at that Y.O.U. conference that if they ever got to some level of power within their respective governments, that they would end all wars between Palestinians and Israelis because they would not fight their friends. True story. Now, I expanded on that story quite a bit because I was wanting people to understand the story of possibility. What's possible in our lives? What's possible when we think and have a higher sense of consciousness, a higher calling, so to speak? When we're able to let go of those stories that tell us one thing and grab onto stories that elevate our level of thinking, of consciousness, of higher being. And so I do have that story available, but what's funny is that I had forgotten about it. And someone called me and said, "Bukeka, I was going through an old Apple computer, and I happened to find this story. And I need for you to tell this story again." So I won't tell you the whole story, but I will tell you this. There are three elements of it that I really want to share with you today. Now, what happened in this story is that these two came together. They started reminiscing about what they had learned in International Y.O.U., and they had remembered three things. They remembered hearing the message that there is good for me and I ought to have it. There is good for me and I ought to have it. Would you like to say that with me? Let's try it. There is good for me and I ought to have it. Yes. And then the second thing was that love is the fulfillment of the law. Let's try that. Love is the fulfillment of the law. And then the last thing was, as it was in the beginning. As it was in the beginning. So let's start there. You see, as it was in the beginning references the fact that when everything was created, all the galaxies, the multi-universes, all the dimensions, everything that was created with perfection. You are as it was in the beginning because you are made up of all the stuff that was there in the beginning. And so in that story, it was about recognizing the fact that we are all that is the perfection of creation. And if we all knew that every single day, boy, would that be a story to tell, right? Now, my story, obviously, it ended really great. My embellishment or my extension of the two young men ended really great. But we know that there's still some troubling times out there, particularly in respect to those lives who are now, 30, 40 years old by now. So where does that leave us? Where do we stand? What is the next level of that story? Well, where I want to take it from here is to say we all have a story, and that story will either elevate us to a higher level of consciousness. And we've all been to the classes. You guys have gone to the classes here, I'm sure. You've heard Erin talk. You're embracing all of this information, and you're implementing it into every moment of your life, right? Absolutely. So there's an elevated story, but there's also this thing called being stuck in your story. And sometimes, no matter how many times we've heard the message, no matter how many times we've sung the songs, no matter how much we go into prayer and meditation, light a candle, do all those things, we can still get stuck in a story. And when that happens, things can go south. Anything that is troubling, anything that is challenging, if we stay stuck in the story, those things tend to escalate rather than elevate. So we want to be really conscious of where we are when it comes to the stories that we tell ourselves, the stories that we tell other people, sometimes over and over and over again, without even really recognizing it. We want to become conscious. So as we leave off on that part of the story of as it was in the beginning, because we already decided, we already made the decision, we already became very aware of the fact that we are as it was in the beginning, the creation of that which is perfect and whole in every way. Now we got to up our game. It's 20 years later. We're at 2.0, 5.0. We got to up the game. We have to be able to understand that over the past 20 years, my God, how much has technology changed? Eugene and I were walking around here and saw that the lawn was being mowed by a robot. Charles and Myrtle were like, check that out. Right? Things have elevated. We're not in the same space that we were 20 years ago. Hopefully. But sometimes those stories are still sticking around. So now, what do we do to elevate our level of consciousness so that we're not stuck in our story? And even if we are in that state of elevated consciousness, even if we are in a state where our story is taking us to beautiful and amazing heights, we want to go higher. We want to go higher. We want to know more. We want to expand. We want to be the breadth of all that is good and loving and righteous and sweet and kind. Because that's a part of our well-being. We love that stuff. We love gravitating toward that. We love well-being. Well-being loves us. So in those moments when even in your elevated state of consciousness, even in your knowing beyond what you knew 20 years ago, we continue to expand and grow because that's what the universe does. You can't help it. Sorry. You will continue to expand and grow all the time. So in your expansion and your growth and in this elevated level of consciousness, I just want you to kind of tune into where you are right now. Last time I was here, Eugene and I went over to the deep dive. And we dived. We dived deep. And what was interesting, and especially being in Unity all my life, right, Delbert? All my life, as far as he knows. Got the whole fam right here. And then some, I see. And there's always been that discussion of, well, we know that Charles and Myrtle had this basis of Christianity that has this layer of metaphysics borrowed by Eastern consciousness and beyond, right? But it has its roots in Christianity. And in that deep dive, there were some folks that were like, I'm not really comfortable with like crystals and, multidimensional and vibration. I like being right here with Christ and everything it says in the Bible in the metaphysical sense. Then there were some folks who were like, you know what, this is the Bible thing. I've had some drama. I've had people use that against me, and I don't like it. I am so good with the crystals. I am so good with the elevated level of consciousness. I am so good with the ancient geometry and all that stuff. And what I'm here to tell you is that it's all here. But I am going to dip into some Bible real quick. Okay? So let's just talk about elevated level of consciousness as we see it from a biblical standpoint. I'm going to go to Matthew 14:22 through 33. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he dismissed them, he went up a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why do you doubt?" Now, I've read that scripture a lot, and the way that it's written, it sounds kind of judgy, right? "Oh, you of little faith. What's wrong with you? Get it together. Do you not have enough faith? Why do you doubt?" Well, Peter was in a story, right? He was like, "This cannot be real. I am walking on the water, but wait, the wind, that's real. The wind is real, and I'm going down," right? He got into a higher level of consciousness and understood that there was a new story, a new way that he could be present to Jesus, but he got scared, like we all do, right? So I'm going to speak now to going to that, well, where are we on this spectrum of spirituality, crystals, vibration, Jesus, God? The fact is that the energy and the vibration that it took for Jesus to walk on the water melds those worlds, right? If you think about it, we are all energy and we are all vibration. We're all made of the same stuff as it was in the beginning. Our family was just in Galveston, Texas. We were out on the beach, and I'm still bringing home pieces of sand. But do you realize that that little speck of sand is about the size of the Earth when you think about where we are in the galaxies, and that there are 8 billion people? That's just the people. We're not talking about the animals and the underwater life that exists. That's a lot of living stuff on this little speck of sand. So if that's possible, why isn't this? Why not? And then it goes on to say about, in the book of John, about him saying, don't you know that you are gods? We are gods? Now, by the way, during the time of Jesus, he did not say, oh, thee, thou, was none of that. There was no, oh, this or that. When he was talking to Peter, basically what he is saying is, and translated from the Aramaic, is that it's not, oh, ye of little faith, it's, you haven't done this very long. I've been doing this for a long time. You're an apprentice, you're a disciple, you're just figuring this stuff out. So it's not that you don't have faith, it's just that you need to practice. We need to practice. We need to practice raising our level of consciousness. And even when we're in that state of light like we were during meditation, when the wind comes and we forget and we get fearful and we start to sink, we got to go right back to that level of consciousness, knowing that we are as it was in the beginning. We are the miracles. We are vibration. We are light. We are gods. We are divine. We are all those things. And if you forget, the person next to you will help you remember. They're going to love you and tell you, don't forget, you are divine. You are amazing. You are as it was in the beginning and more. You have a light within you that cannot be diminished. You have a power within you that you don't even recognize how powerful you are. And maybe immediately you will snap out of it, or maybe a day or two, I don't know. But you'll get through it. There's this section in the book of John. Jesus said to them, I have shown you many good works from my Father. For which one of them do you stone me for? And the Jews said to him, it is not because of the good works we stone you, but because of blasphemy. For while you are only a man, you make yourself God. Jesus said to them, is it not written in your law, I said, you are gods? And I kind of also think, every time I read that part, I think about, okay, what if Jesus was a woman with an attitude, okay? So wait a minute. What you're trying to tell me is, even though in your own laws, all right, you're like, oh, we're angels, we're divine, we're all that. But if I say it, you got a problem, right? So what I'm here to tell you today is that you are amazing. And wherever you are in your story, if you're stuck in a story that is causing you to spiral and go into places where you don't want to go, start with that light. Go to that solar plexus, that little light. Let it start to bubble up, Feel the energy from the core of the earth. Let it expand. Watch it grow. Connect with the light that is above you from your crown chakra. Feel that heart open up really wide. Be the light. If that's all you can do in that moment, just be the light. And if you are on that spiritual journey where you're really learning and you're really practicing, you're making decisions and you're being very, very, very intentional about applying the things that you know to your everyday practice, keep it up. Because then when the wind blows, and the wind is going to blow, you will have a greater chance of withstanding and getting back to that light. I'd like for us to all imagine ourselves as light one more time. And I want us to think about or hold in our heart the things that we've kind of been seeing in the world for a while. You know, sometimes in our spiritual practice, we kind of sometimes dance around the things that are going on. Now, I don't want us to dance around that right now. I want us to be conscious of it. I want us to be conscious of the things that just happened in Texas with floods. And I want us to be conscious of the things that have happened with fires. I want us to be conscious of things that are happening with warring factors. And I want us to be the light. I want every seat filled with light. Expand it. Envelop all of those people, those families in your heart, in the light right now. And you might think, what difference is that going to make? But I already know that you know that because you felt it when you did the meditation. You felt that light expand and grow and have power within you. It didn't just sit there, it did something. It's doing something because you are powerful beings. So I want you to just say with me for just a moment, the universe is calling. The universe is calling me to be the light. I will be the light. And so it is. Thank you. Amen.